Hello, this is Dr. Harriet Fraad, bringing you Capitalism Hits Home. This podcast is sponsored by Democracy at Work. This is part 2 of my podcast about how the mega changes in the world affect us at home in America and in our personal lives. We talked about how the big settler colonialisms and colonial powers, whether they are England, France, Germany, or Belgium, can no longer operate the way they used to because the people of the world have taken possession of their own countries and fought back. And of course, the American empire, as I mentioned, is also failing. We still do have enormous military might, and although we lost the last 3 wars in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, we can totally demolish nations with our bombs, kind of like what Israel is doing in Gaza, destroy the quality of life for millions of people. However, we can't win, and we haven't won. And because we outsourced our manufacture to China and others, but mainly to China, because they had a disciplined, huge workforce, they are now the manufacturing giant of the world and catching up with the United States. The United States has still the biggest economy, but China is catching up, and China's economy is growing by 5 or 6% a year, whereas in a good year, the United States economy grows by about 1.5%. And therefore, there's less money floating around, and that money is not earned, I shouldn't say, but acquired by outsourcing our manufacturing so that billionaires who outsource bring their billions to America and buy up our for sale political system. None of our European allies that have things that we don't, like childcare, after-school care, summer care for children, health care, and elder care on a quality level, none of them have the huge military apparatus the United States maintains. And so we think, okay, how could we then have a better quality of life, stop the erosion of Americans' quality of life so that rents are up as much as 40%, food is up, homelessness is growing, all the social problems that come with poverty, which I'll talk about later, are growing. What can we do? What have they done? Well, the first thing is they are organized. They have huge socialist parties and strong communist parties, and that organize unions that are in solidarity with other unions so that workers understand that because they create everything in a society, they have power, they have muscle. They also most importantly, they stop spending a huge portion of their income on military. Our military budget was $857.9 billion last year. $816.7 billion was just for the Defense Department, which is odd because nobody's ever invaded us, even though the World Trade Center destroyed buildings and killed many people. We've never been invaded, while we have invaded many countries around the world. And then an additional $30.3 billion is for national security, for things like those overweight soldiers marching around Grand Central Station with guns while people wheel suitcases that could contain explosives all around the station. Bizarre national defense. Well, if we stopped using even half of that budget, we'd have about $40.5 billion to spend on what some other countries have. Free health care, quality public education, free child care, free after-school programs, and summer care, and free and available health and welfare for people. Our cities would be much less dangerous and overcrowded. We would not encounter homeless people. I've been in France recently. I didn't. Even in Paris, their biggest city by far, I did not see homeless encampments. Because they do not waste their biggest budget items, their money, on national defense. Also, we can do what we are doing so beautifully now. American workers are realizing they are shafted, that the huge allocation of money to the top and privation of the money to the bottom has been a disaster for American workers. In the beginning of the 1950s, half of American workers were in unions, and their presence raised the workers' wages in all the ununionized places. Now it's about 9%, but Americans are changing. There were more than 500,000 people out on strike last year. The UAW, the United Auto Workers, with its great leader, Sean Fain, had said this is a class war. I'll talk about that a little later. And through very clever worker solidarity, they earned a 25% increase from the three biggest automakers, as well as a right to stop overseas export of their jobs, as well as health care and pension rights and equal wages, not a whole lower tier for new workers. That was a huge victory, and that victory allowed the United Postal Service's 340,000 workers to threaten and get their raises and better working conditions. But of course, it's not only blue-collar workers who are catching on in the United States. The Writers Guild joined with all the stagecraft people and many performers to have 127,000 people out from the Writers Guild and IATSE, the technical workers and support workers for the entertainment industry and the actors and actresses. And they won their strike. People who didn't ever used to unionize, all the non-tenured faculty, plus the lab techs, plus the graduate student assistants, plus the student workers, all joined in the university, all in the University of California system joined a union. And 48,000 of them won better salaries and benefits because they united together. There are now unions at the museums, at art installations, at nonprofit corporations, because American workers are understanding that this is a class war. This is a war that they have lost ever since the 50s. As an example of what they could win and what they see, the German workers, the German Metal Workers Union, which has hundreds of thousands of members across Germany, want a 22-hour work week at the same pay and all their benefits. Because in Germany, if they are on strike, then so are the sanitation workers, just like in France. The French workers, when they go out on strike, the gas and electric workers turn off the gas and electricity in the wealthier neighborhoods, leaving it on in the poorer neighborhoods. The transit workers close the subway stations and the trains because they understand that it's our work that makes the whole world. Look around your house. The house was made through workers. Look outside. Someone either planted the trees or took care of them. Someone made the roads. Everything around us is made by labor. And yet, the knowledge of that has been denied us. I have a doctoral degree. I never took a labor history course because none was ever offered in any of my education. From my early education at Public School 81 in the Bronx to my doctoral education at Columbia, I never learned that it's all of our wealth is created through people's work. And that's what unions have recognized and taught us. What France has gotten, I know that I've been to France a lot, spent a lot of time there, studied some of their systems of childcare, after school and summer care. What they have done by giving up their colonies is that they have universal education starting at 3 and highly subsidized education at birth. And they also have a health system in which there's huge maternal care. Someone comes to your house after you've had a baby to help you get in shape. Someone else comes twice a week to give you several hours off to do whatever you want and does the laundry and watches the child. And that makes a world of difference to people's economy. They have free education. That makes a huge difference. The average loan that is unpaid and people are struggling with for up to 20 years for going through school is $20,000. They don't have that. They also do not allow private money in elections. In France, every candidate gets the same amount of money from the government. Now, of course, they cheat. And if they're caught, they're eliminated from the election and they are criminals. In France, they caught Sarkozy getting an attaché case full of euros from Enid Betancourt, who was the richest woman in France at the time. Sarkozy faces jail. He was eliminated from the election. Now, of course, they can successfully sneak, but they can't accumulate money like the United States candidates do under Citizens United, where people can give billions to candidates and where they can buy ads and TV and radio time. When I lived in France during an election, every candidate, and there were 10 candidates running, and they were from parties as different as the Fascist Party, the Communist Party, the Monarchist Party, and so on. But they all got a certain amount of time to make a presentation on the television and radio. They can put up posters, but that's it. That would make a huge difference. It would make a difference in citizen participation, too. Because after World War II, when companies bought up the airwaves, voting dropped off because people felt they had no voice anymore. In the words of Sean Fain, who is the president of the UAW, I think it would be a great thing if we all align our contracts so that we're all taking action at the same time as a generalized strike threat. Working class people have been left behind, and they've been left behind since the 80s when Reagan took over and went after Patco, that was the air controllers, and nobody took action in the street. It's been a downhill spiral ever since. We just watched this massive divide between the billionaire class, corporate class, and then the vast working class. The only thing to equalize that and bring it back in check is organized labor. Working class people have to focus on the power we have when we stand together and the power we have when we withhold our labor. That's what's going to move. Well, that combined with a party that represents us rather than the two parties spending billions to get themselves elected. It's a class war. For example, Elon Musk's pay package in 2018 was $56 billion, enough to give us all health care or child care. The personal effects of the current class war is the end of the American dream. It's not being able to pay the rent. It's hopelessness, and it shows itself through the fact that 1 million people died since 1999 from drug overdoses. People don't drug themselves if they're having a good life and connected to other people. It's shown itself in that Americans die younger every year. Our babies, infant mortality has risen, so Cubans have a longer life and their babies have a greater chance to survive on that little poor island than we do. It's shown in the poor and poor educational performance of Americans compared to others, and of our high imprisonment rate, and our mental illness. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 1 out of 5 Americans, whether they're adults, adolescents, or little children, has a certifiable mental illness. Hopelessness breeds collapse. Americans need to believe in something. We need to believe we can win, that it's a class war where they have the money and we have the mass of people they need to do anything. They need us, and we need each other in order to win. We need to have a party that expresses the needs of all people who work for a living rather than depend on other people's wages. And connected. We need, instead of disparate, very worthy causes like climate change or a progressive union movement or a feminist separate movement or a Black Lives Matter movement or a sexual rights movement, we need to connect to each other. We need to be one big union. Martin Luther King said, "The best cure for racism is unions where we all work together." And I think the best cure for what's hurting the American people where we live and in our mental health is unions, and a political union of all of us, which will give us hope, which will give us energy, which will give us connection, which are huge aspects of mental health. So let's do it. It's already starting with unions. Now what we need is a movement which will become a party for all of us. Not only a party for a political party, a party for partying and enjoying our lives. Thank you very much. Goodbye for now.